Have you ever wondered what the Bible meant by the word scribe? Minimally, scribes were educated people who read and wrote for a living. Scribes could be hired by illiterate people, the vast majority of the population, for legal and financial matters. More typically, scribes were also experts in Torah, the Mosaic Law, and the New Testament often refers to them as lawyers. We might consider them a combination of pious theologians and civil lawyers. Lived rightly, it was a very honorable profession. We encountered a pious scribe in last week's Gospel readings. It appears, however, that many scribes were far less pious. Our Gospel reading this week begins with the sentence, "Beware of the scribes." Jesus then denounces them as inclined to ostentation in places of honor. Then comes his great criticism. They devour the houses of widows, and as a pretext recite lengthy prayers. The situation would work like this. A widow with no social power or protection might have to rely on a scribe to act as a conservator of her estate. An unscrupulous scribe could take great advantage of her weakness, enriching himself and impoverishing her. This would be especially easy if he appeared particularly devout, and Jesus was scandalized by their public campaigning. Whether they were cheats or not, Jesus observes that their piety was worse than compromise, it was downright hypocrisy. In our Gospel readings, such a religious sham contrasts with the poor widow who humbly contributes 2 small coins to the temple treasury. He also contrasts her with affluent contributors who give far more than she, for they have contributed from their surplus wealth, but she from her poverty has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood. It strikes me that what the poor widow best models for us is humility and extraordinary generosity. What she gives really costs her, while for them it was merely part of their surplus wealth. Many of us are generous and kind-hearted, but we are usually so only until our comfort zone gets threatened. One of the great studies of the human condition is Shantung Compound, a narrative by the theologian Langdon Gilkey about life in a Japanese internment camp during World War II. As Gilkey describes it, the Japanese treated the Westerners relatively well, and they adjusted to this quasi-imprisonment. There were conflicts, however, when people were asked to give up some comfort for the common good. Those called upon for a small sacrifice were resentful and complaining, and they contrived all kinds of reasons why it would be more just for others to be imposed upon instead of them. Gilkey's experiences led him to abandon his optimism concerning human nature, and he came to regard humans as deeply narcissistic. We can be generous, he thought, just as long as it doesn't really cost us by violating our comfort zone. Push the edges of that, and it's dog eat dog. Today, Jesus points to the poor widow. Be like her, he tells us. Make it cost.